Hello YouTube, hello world. It's Shawna from DisruptApps again, and today I'd like to do a hello world, a company overview, and something I wanted to do to kind of give an idea of what I'm about, what DisruptApps is about, and the goals of my projects and companies. So I put together this nice little slideshow for us, so I hope you enjoy. So, DisruptApps, disruptive applications. It's a portmanteau that I came up with and I really like, and I took that logo and made a nice logo out of it. I really like it. The little elephant's name is Runty because he's a runty little thing. So this is basically a company introduction here on July of 2025. So my motivations for DisruptApps is I'm semi-retired and I have lots of science and technology experience, and DisruptApps LLC is my passion project, if you will, and I've LLC'd for personal reasons, and originally LLC'd in 2023 and renewed it in 2025, so I am a legitimate company. So my material needs are met, and I'm now free to work on doing something meaningful with my life. You know, I've done my time and built my career, and I've worked for big companies and the enterprise space and corporate America. So it's time to do something for humanity and for the goodness of society. I'm frustrated with the state of our socio-economic system, and I'm sure millions and millions of us are very frustrated with how things are. I'm frustrated that all people want to do is complain, but they don't want to do anything meaningful to actually make change or to make things better or to build something better. In my view, technology is both a part of the problem and a part of the solution. Personally, I see too much centralization of power, and that because of that centralization of power, humanity is heading in a very bad direction. I love technology. I grew up on technology, tinkering with stuff. I was rebuilding engines at 15, and my whole career has been in science and tech. So I love coding, I love teaching, I love 3D design. So I want to use all my skills and experience to do something good. And overall, my main motivation, as I stated before, is everyone is complaining about how bad the system sucks, but so few of us are actually doing anything to change it or make something new. And yeah, I know protesting is good, but it hasn't really made a difference. And we see that, all these protests recently. And, you know, I don't want to sound cruel, but to me, protests are just giant group therapy sessions where people get their frustrations out. And, you know, the ruling class, they know that, and they let you have your march in the streets and get angry because they want you to blow off steam because you won't do anything. And that's why protests are good, but we have to actually do something to make change instead of just protesting and complaining. So with that, DisruptApps and my work and projects are to actually show how we go about change, you know, or making a new system by using applied technologies. And applied technologies is, what that means is you actually take technologies and use them. That's what the name comes from, applied technologies. Like you have theoretical and you have applied. Theoretical is like book learning and formulas and stuff like that. It's all theoretical up in the air, whereas applied is where actually you have hands-on. So I'm a hands-on type of person. I like to do things hands-on. So let me get a sip of coffee here. So my goals of DisruptApps and the projects I do and the content that I'll create is to educate, advocate, and promote to end users and progressives about technology, privacy, security, encryption, cybernetics, systems engineering, etc. I like to educate, advocate and promote peer-to-peer systems, collaboration, open source, and decentralization. I'm really big on the idea of decentralization. I'd like to teach people how to code, build and fix computers, run their own servers, 3D print, DIY, do it yourself, DIO, do it ourselves, etc. I'd like to educate and promote for the use of non-proprietary technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, C++, and Linux, instead of relying on proprietary or semi-proprietary code libraries and frameworks. I'd like to foster a coalition of like-minded technologists to establish a decentralization movement. I'd like to create AI-free alternatives in AI-free zones. Create alternative platforms to big tech. I'd like to create non-privacy invading, data siphoning, algorithmically manipulating platforms, web and native applications. Promote 3D printing and design. Combat and mitigate the encroaching crypto blockchain surveillance state, everything as a service, authoritarian dystopia. Inspire people to become active in building decentralized means of production while we still have time, as the shadow of technological unemployment and authoritarianism looms, which we are seeing rapidly happen. Create platforms and technologies that are so well documented that just one junior developer with basic networking and server skills can build and run it. And that's one thing with the software community is a lot of the documentation out there is very, very difficult to read and understand, and you've got to have a really good understanding. And I hate to say, but kind of need to dumb it down a little bit. Kind of going on a tangent here, but stuff like WX widgets, the documentation's just horrid and doesn't go into good detail. So that's just one example, and I just really think coding should be well documented, and there's plenty of them out there that are well documented, like frameworks and programming languages and stuff like that. So, but my overall main goal is to show how we make meaningful systemic change through showing by doing with applied technologies, and inspire people to actually do stuff in the real world, not just theorize about it, not just complain, but actually do stuff in the real world to make change. That's what we got to start doing. So I want to set out with a code of ethics from the very start of this company and my projects. So personally, I build everything from scratch so that I know every line of code, and I design things from scratch because it gives you deep, intimate knowledge of how things work, and you just don't rely on a framework or a library and just type in code and it works. But this is good for debugging and just getting really good at what you do and proficient. I do not use AI. I don't use AI in my coding, my writing, my presentations. I don't use AI for any of the 3D design that I do because I think it makes us lazy and too reliant on technology. I will not be disingenuous with the technology I build, the services I render, or content I create. I want DisruptApps and my projects to be 100% grassroots, member, community supported. And my company slogan is Code for Humanity, Human-Driven Development. As a tech company, people should use technology to make their lives, through material conditions and personal spheres of influence, better, rather than being a technology company whose entire goal is profit, greed, power, and manipulating people. So I know it's going to be hard in this day and age to be not political, but a lot of people, I have my views and my stances, and I stand behind them, and I have my reasons. I despise generative AI because having worked in the industry and seeing what things are. It's disingenuous. It's a hype product by big tech for sales, profit, and control. It's being misused. Corporations don't care if they destroy people's jobs. Governments and societies have no recourse for technological unemployment. AI makes people lazy, and it creates a servile crutch to technology. And I'll go into more detail about why I don't like AI, especially generative AI. And because I'm a poet, it really strikes at our humanity when you just have parts of silicon and metal that can replicate the human experience. It's demeaning, it's degrading to what it means to be human. And have mixed feelings about narrow AI for things like engineering and science, because I think it could be useful, but again, because of our system, it's not being used to serve humanity, but rather profit and control. Big tech is now what I have called, perhaps coined, peak innovation, and is now just making shit up just to sell products in an artificial markets at the detriment of society and to the environment. I mean, briefly, if you look, we can only increment so much at how the clarity of a monitor, how fast a processor goes, how many cameras you have on your phone. And these innovations aren't really innovations, they're just add-ons. I mean, like, the internet was a real innovation. The semiconductor was an innovation. The plow was an innovation because it advanced a quantum level, if you will. But what we have now is what they call innovation. It's just marketing. Big tech makes a mockery of sustainability and is thermodynamically and stoichiometrically unsustainable. And I know I used some big words there like thermodynamically and stoichiometrically, but if you remember back to, high school chemistry, thermodynamically just means heat, and stoichiometrically means balancing chemical equations. So basically, when you look at the CO2 cycle and the energy balance of this world, we don't have a sustainable society with the fossil fuels that we have to burn for a market economic system. So, and when big tech goes around and says that they're green and sustainable, they're lying. Big tech will eventually ruin our humanity and our environment, and we're seeing that with this live beta test from the 2000s with social media and AI. That's going to be a big one. Big tech has conditioned humanity to be a fast tech consumer that turns people into addicts. Like after World War II, before World War II, everyone was just utilitarian. People bought what they needed. You look at people like men back in the day, they just wore suits and a hat, and women wore basic dresses and stuff like that. And everyone had a very simple life. But after World War II, we turned into a consumerist economy. And this came the idea of fast fashion. Well, big tech is doing the same thing. They're just making fast tech. And they're making up things like IoT, the Internet of Things, and AI to make new markets. Big tech is intentionally creating a society that requires people and institutions to use their products or services. Big tech is creating what I call a Mother May I society, where it is conditioning humans to ask permission from their tech overlords just to do anything. Do you want to go to the bathroom? Scan a QR code. Do you want to download a song? Put this data in. Do you want to start your car? Scan your app. Scan your iris. This is where we're going. Big tech, because of automation, will create mass technological unemployment that will destabilize society, exacerbate inflation, and pave the way for a blockchain surveillance state, everything as a service, authoritarian dystopia. Why do you think their big tech is doing what they're doing, and the current regime is building out databases and getting tech companies to do AI in this big surveillance state? Big tech will eventually become a too big to fail in which we, the taxpayer, will have to subsidize. I am a decentralist and do not believe in centralized, hierarchical, socio-economic structures. People have a right to exist, no matter who they are, and have agencies over their lives. No one should dictate their personal or religious beliefs over another person, nor should it be codified into law for some culture war. A common person and shared community should have their own means of production by using readily available technologies. I am a minimalist and conservationist and restorationist in terms of Earth's resources. I do not consider myself a socialist or communist, but if you must label me something, post-scarcity technological anarchist would be fine. It's hard not to be political these days, but more than likely, my stances and views will appeal to progressives, anyone considered left of center. I consider myself an ally and friend of those on the left spectrum, and I may share some common ground with libertarians, but jokingly, I just think libertarians are anarchists who haven't been screwed over by the system yet. I am not one of these newfangled abundance liberals, but I'm very much in tune and inspired by things like the Venus Project, the Zeitgeist Movement, post-scarcity society, zero marginal cost society, post-capitalist societies, permaculture, off-grid, and solar punk. I feel that no one is coming to save us. The system certainly won't. Technological unemployment will force us to either adapt our own liberties or become digital blockchain serfs. We have to motivate and activate ourselves if we want meaningful change. Now I want to go over some of my current major projects that I've been working on. I have a web-based turnkey ephemeral encrypted chat messaging application. It's about 90% done and it's in beta test ready. I have a web-based turnkey super app. It's about 60% done. It's in development still. I need to refactor the code and wire up the databases. I've already got the UI pretty much squared away, and it's both desktop and mobile ready. I've been working on for a couple of years now a novel encryption system that's designed to meet the hype of the quantum computing supposed increase on calculation capacity. And I've been working on this idea for about 3 years. I had it in my head probably back in 2022, 2023, and it's to complement RSA and AES encryption, and I have a unique peer-to-peer server web browsing file parsing encryption system. I actually just started working on it, and it's in current development. And to go along with my major current projects, I bought my own enterprise grade server, and it's basically what you would find in a data center, like what Amazon or Microsoft or any of those big, any data center company is going to use it. And it's a gigabyte R272 Z30, and it's a 24-core AMD EPYC. It's a pretty good core, pretty good processor, and 48 threads, 2.8 gigahertz baseline. It spins up to like 4 or something like that when it's on turbo. I've got 32 gigs of RAM in it. The unit supports up to 2.5 terabytes, and already got some good M.2 SSD storage in it. 1,000 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. I have it set up where it'll be a mirror RAID with 2 M.2 NVMEs for the OS, and I'm running a Debian Linux on it, and I have a picture of it when I first unboxed it. I might do another re-unboxing video just for the fun of it. But here it is when I pulled it out of the plastic. I pulled out the cover, and you can see it's got some RAM in there, a bunch of empty slots. You're looking at the CPU cooler. In the background, you can see the 960 or 980 Evo Pros I have in it. And then here's a front view with all the hard drives that I have. I just have one hard drive in it, but has a tons and tons of expansions. So it's a legit enterprise grade server, and it's going to be my when I get all my projects built out, I'm going to put, run my LAMP stack on it, make sure everything, all my turnkey applications, turnkey platforms run on it before I deploy it. So 100% tested. So that's the plan. So now I'll go over the projects a little bit, and I have some photos to show. So the web-based turnkey ephemeral encrypted chat messaging system I have, here's a screenshot of it. Its name is Encryptanon, and I've had it for a while now, and you can see here I have the minimum viable product is here. And basically you can do you can send encrypted text messages and images and documents, and it's not end-to-end, but if you put this behind a login system, if you have your own company or your own private network, you can use this to encrypt. And plus, you're going to be using the HTTPS protocol, so it's going to be encrypted there. But basically, what you can do is you can upload text messages, an image, or a document, and after so many seconds, it'll delete after the recipient opens it up. So if you saw like Mr. Robot and you saw the Wicker, I think it's called Wicker, when they open up the app and it deletes after so many seconds, that's what I modeled it after. So, but here's like the front page of one of the pages of the application. And then I just routed the encrypted text to a database just to show that whatever you encrypt gets encrypted into the database. And you can see here with the highlighted blue, that's that's the ciphertext, and the keys are stored elsewhere. So it's a minimum viable product that I have and working. So my next current project is it's a huge project I've been working on. It's basically a turnkey super application, and it's about 60% done. I've got all the UI done. I've got a lot of the back end and the business logic done. I just have to wire up the databases and do some testing and refactor the code. So it's a LAMP stack. Now there's a reason why I code everything and do everything in a LAMP stack. And so here's some images. The name of the application is called Honestly Apps because it's an application that's honest. It's all about being honest, which is something that's lacking in technology these days. So basically, I'm very upfront with it. Your privacy is never invaded. Your data is never analyzed. Absolutely no artificial intelligence. Your data is not fed into AI models. Your data is never sold. You are never tracked. Your devices are never fingerprinted. Your messages are encrypted. No gamification, no gimmicks, no user engagement tactics, no burying of menus, no annoying, invasive, and targeted advertising, no addictive exploits, no manipulation, no lip service, no excuses. It's time a tech company steps up and does the right thing to be honest and treat you with dignity and respect. So here's just a couple of screenshots, and I go for simplicity and basics, unlike a lot of these apps these days that just blow crap in your face, and they do that intentionally, and I want to get away from that. It's a back to simplicity model. So here's your dashboard. As you can see, I have a black theme or dark theme, and I've got a dashboard, news, friends, marketplace, images, videos, messages, documents, a watermarking app, a de-exifier, a world map, and a browser. And if you're an admin, you have an admin panel. And here's a white version or light theme. And I'm just going to go through some of the application, some of the apps on it. As you can see, it's really clean, straightforward, not a bunch of junk shoved in your face, easy to navigate, not hard to navigate. I have a image gallery where you can upload your images, browse them. Same thing with videos. I have a video thing where you can put up playlists, and you can organize your playlists, and you can share these with your friends on the network. Now let me be clear here, this is not a social media application. This is a private application. You have a My Documents where you can organize and upload your documents. Let's see here. Here's a thing of the dashboard. You know how horrible the menus and dashboards are on these applications? They do that for a reason, because they don't want you to leave the platform. They want you to be stuck on the platform and spend as much time and make it as difficult for you as possible to change things. Well, I changed that. You can see my dashboard here is simple, tabbed, easy to use, no bullshit, straightforward to the point. And if you want to leave my application, fine, go right ahead. I'm going to make it easy peasy for you to leave if you don't like it. So here's a white, I hate to say white, light version of a Friends. And again, this is not a social media app. This is not a social media application, but you have a full Friends system where you can find, friend, unfriend, block people, keep in touch with friends, look at what they have for sale, look at their playlists, look at their albums. It's a fully fleshed out Friends sharing system. Here's a quick look at the admin's dashboard. You can see here it's really simple to use if you're an admin. And I didn't put in this presentation the watermarker or dexifier, but those are working. So my next major project is a novel encryption system that is designed to meet the hype of the quantum computing. And I don't want to go right now. I can't go into too much detail about it, but I do want to show you some of my screenshot just to know that I'm not bullshitting people and that I'm legit. And right now I'm just coding it up in PHP, but I'll eventually code it up in C++ when I for my C++ applications. But I wrote everything from scratch because the idea, if you know about quantum computers and how they work and how it works in dimensions, I'll hint at that much, that the idea that I have works kind of in tandem with the way quantum computing works. And I had to get a drink of coffee. So I've just built out a novel encryption system that it could be standalone, but it's definitely going to be a complement to RSA or AES encryption. And right now I need to leave it at that. But I just want to show you that I'm writing this code from scratch because the idea I have isn't really out there. So I think it's a novel approach to encryption. And so I know you're looking at this screen of huge numbers, and what this is, if it's a factorial. And if you understand mathematics, and if you understand how a factorial works, in encryption, this huge gigantic number here that you see is, with this one setting that I have, that's how many possibilities of encryption keys that would be out there that a computer would have to run through and crack. And as you can see, it's a huge, huge, huge number. And that's why I built it, because it needs to be resilient to the quantum computing hype. So, sorry my voice is getting dry, but I don't talk a whole lot in real life. So, my next current major project is something I've been wanting to do, and it's a peer-to-peer server web browsing file parsing encryption system for Windows and Linux. I just started it, and I'm building it in C++. And my motivation is that I want to build a standalone system for a browsing system that is not owned by Google or anything like that. It's very inspired by Tim Berners-Lee, and I've spent a lot of time, and I built my own parsing. Like I did a syntax highlighter, and I've built an XML parser, and I know how to build parsers. So my next step up is to actually build if you want to call it a browsing engine for parser. And there's a reason why I want to do it, because I want to build it from scratch to deal with some of the problems that like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, reduce some of the complexities in it. But I want to build it. It's not going to be proprietary, but I'll eventually open source the code and how everything works. But I want it to be so, a lot of people want to build their own web browsers, but when you look out there how to build it, you need to use like WinForms, or you need to use a proprietary system that's controlled by Microsoft or whatever, or Google Chrome. And I know there's Google Chrome has Google Chrome and open source and things like that, but this thing that I'm building is going to be super simple, and it can be done, and you can own it, and you can run it on your own Windows machine and Linux machine. And again, it's going to be a browser parsing, serving, and encryption system for Linux and Windows. And I've just started on the UI, and here's a really simple picture of the UI. And again, you can see here that it's a Windows application. So you can see that the layout here is, I have settings. In the window starting from the top left, I have settings, history, favorites, peers, peer-to-peer, P2P files, and serving. And then as you can see, I've got a standard refresh, back, forward bar, forward buttons. I've got a bar to, it won't be a URL, but it'll be something similar but a little different. And then I have a favorites icon, a history, settings, appear, and then an on and off button for being on and offline. So I've got the user interface fleshed out, and I plan to do a dark and a light theme. So those are my current major projects that I've been working on. So, and then my minor projects, I don't want to be like a full-time YouTuber, but I think YouTube is definitely a great means of reaching out to people. And so I'll do some content creation for education and news and things like that, and eventually do some teaching. I'd like to do some community tech activism. Yeah, I like to do some of that. Maybe I'll do some 3D printing and design if I see that people get interested in it. And let me get a quick drink of coffee here. So about me, about myself, I'm not a person who's a me person, but in this world of social media, everybody has to hype themselves a little bit. But I'm semi-retired. I have 20 years combined experience in science, technology, IT, and the semiconductor field. I've worked for big name corporations in the areas of gas and ion chromatography, semiconductor manufacturing maintenance, software and hardware quality assurance, enterprise software, and coding. So I've got a very, wide breadth and depth of STEM experience. So I also have 4 years of teaching experience in Japan. I've taught all ages from kindergarten to adults, both in public and private schools, and it was a great experience. I know a little bit of Japanese, and I've traveled the country extensively. And I have great admiration and respect for Japan and Japanese culture and society. And my 4 years in Japan really changed how I see the world, changed my worldview, and I really see how important culture is to a society. I like to write poetry, prose, and rhetoric. I have a self-published book. I have over 120 poems and prose written to date, and I need to write a second edition. And you can easily find me on LinkedIn and see my experience. My LinkedIn is on YouTube, and on my videos, on my YouTube profile, my videos. And it'll be on this slide. So my hobbies are basketball, triathlon, weight training, coding, learning, nature, Japan, 3D printing and design, and piano. So with that, here's the concluding slides. That's my DisruptApps logo and DisruptApps and myself DisruptApps LLC looks forward to serving you, the community, and humanity in the utmost capacity. And here's my name, so you don't have to go out and dox me. It's right here. My name is Shawna Brooks. I am the founder and technologist, DisruptApps LLC, DisruptApps.com. My email is admin@disruptapps.com, and you can find me at LinkedIn right there. And that is the end of this presentation. So again, thanks for your time, and I look forward to serving you and humanity. Bye-bye.